you here to debate?
Hey, well, sort of, kind of. I just had a couple of questions for you. I was just scrolling through YouTube, saw that you say that this guy's an enemy of the people. I would say I am more right-leaning than left-leaning, if anything. But I just wanted to hear why you think he's an enemy of the people and what he has done against America.
Sure. Can I just get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
Yeah, I'm Cooper. I'm 19.
Pronouns?
Sorry, I don't really think it's necessary for me.
It's necessary for me. That's why I asked.
Okay. Well, I would say I go by he, him.
Great. So Donald Trump engaged in a plot in 2020 or 2021 to institute fake electors. He basically had fake electors drawn up from a couple of different states, including New Mexico, Pennsylvania, et cetera, et cetera. He had those fake electors sent to Mike Pence on the day of certification of the election. In working with multiple co-conspirators, he tried to overturn the election because he realized that he did not win. All the evidence for this is in the Jack Smith indictment. There's emails between his co-conspirators and himself. There are phone call transcripts between co-conspirators. There's like 77 witnesses. Mike Pence has affirmed that this has happened. He tried to overthrow an election, and he attempted to sow the seeds of this election overturning as early as like 2019. So yeah, I think somebody that tries to overturn a secure election in the United States is an enemy of the United States people, because they don't actually care what the United States people want. He just wants to be in power.
Okay, so I watched this documentary called 3,000 Mules. Are you familiar with that? I forget who made it.
Yeah, it's been debunked like 100 times.
That's been debunked.
Yes.
So in what way was his evidence supporting that there was plenty of and by electors you mean voters, right?
No, electors would be the Electoral College.
Okay, all right. So obviously you are much smarter than me. I won't even lie, and I'm not trying to show up as a clip for your YouTube video. But so how is that documentary false? What made it incorrect?
Because every claim in that video has been turned down by either the courts, by lawsuits. Specifically in the video, they talk about I'm pretty sure they talk about first of all, D'Souza, the guy that makes the video, says a bunch of wild shit all the time, and he's fucking insane. But second of all, when it comes to like the claims made in the video, one of the big things that they use is like Rudy Giuliani's claims. Rudy Giuliani has admitted in front of a court of law that he lied about all that shit. One of the other things they do is they specifically address like certain people and depicted these people as illegally voting. And then when actual investigations happen, like the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, they cleared all of these people that the documentary, specifically in one case, it was a guy named, what was his name? Mark Andrews. He was painted and alleged in the video as somebody who's committing voter fraud. An investigation cleared him, and then Andrews was talking about suing whatever his name is, D'Souza, whatever the fuck you pronounce it, for his incorrect painting of him as committing voter fraud. Right? 2,000 Mules has no facts in it. It's got nothing. It just makes claims. Everybody who's looked at this election has verified this, right? All the court cases that Donald Trump has brought up for fraud were turned down on no standing. No standing means there was no evidence. Steve Bannon, his fucking guy, right? Said there was no Steve Bannon was his White House chief strategist, right? Said that there was no interference. The Department of Justice under Trump's control said there's no interference. Like there's no evidence on this mass voter fraud, right? Donald Trump sowed the seeds of this election being fraudulent before the election even happened. He was and in fact, in leaked phone calls with Steve Bannon said this is exactly what was going to happen, is that Donald Trump was going to claim he won before it got too late in the evening, because they knew that the majority of votes that were going to be counted towards Biden were going to be mail-in ballots, and those don't get counted until after the fact. So he knew
Hmm.
that they knew there was going to be a big swing. They talked about this prior to the election, that there was going to be a massive swing towards the middle of the night where the votes were going to start going towards Biden. But if Donald Trump could come on live TV declaring that he won, right, what the American people are going to see is that there was a turn. And then when none of this worked in his favor, he said, well, I'm going to send fake electors to Mike Pence, and Mike Pence will verify those fake electors and get me in charge. But luckily, during Trump's first time in office, the people around him were not yes men. They said, Mike Pence said, absolutely not. I'm not fucking doing that. You're deranged. Steve Bannon said, yeah, no, Trump, you're psychotic for trying to do this. All of his 40 of his 44 cabinet members said, you're a crackpot, and they don't support him anymore.
Okay, so I guess I'm also a little confused on. So personally, I do think that there is greater stuff than like going on in the background than just the president can handle. Like I believe in the deep state. Maybe you don't. I believe that there could be very well just a whole lot of electoral like fraud going on in the background. I think maybe that Trump got rigged out of this election, and I
How?
just think it's a little suspicious. I just think it was very coincidental that COVID happened and that there's all these mail-in ballots, like you said. I could count after, but the fact, so maybe now that I watched this 2,000, 3,000 Mule documentary saying that there was like a random surge of 30,000 ballots or whatever showing up at one time, kind of convinced me. And then him showing his quote-unquote proof of it happening, I guess maybe that's what kind of solidified me thinking that the election was indeed rigged for the past election. But so personally, I still kind of think it's rigged. I'll have to look into that whole documentary about why or how his view was false. But with that being said, yeah, I was just kind of curious of why you thought he's an enemy of the people. Personally, I don't think he's an enemy of the people. I think he will do a better job than Kamala, and I don't know nothing about policy.
Wait, how
but
can
I believe
just a real quick question? Just a real quick question.
Yeah.
How can somebody who attempted, right, to overthrow an
Okay.
election do better? Like, do you recognize the danger here in putting somebody into office who tried to overturn an election?
Yeah, I can see your point. And honestly, that does sound pretty bad at that face value. But I don't think Trump did that many bad things in 2016. I was really young. I don't know how old I was in 2016. I'm 19 now. So I really wasn't big into politics at that time. But I know that my parents.
Wait. Friend.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the number one tenet of the U.S. political system?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what that means, but you can tell me.
Our number one tenet is that we have a democracy. We have a representative democracy where the people get to vote in the people they want in office.
Sure.
If we have a system in which somebody goes against this, then they are going against the number one tenet of the United States.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, but I don't think he did anything wrong in 2016. I know my parents were far better off.
What did he do in 2016? First of all, he wasn't in charge in 2016. He didn't get in charge until 2017. But what did he do?
Well, yeah.
What specifically did he do in like, let's go this first 2 years in office, 2017 and 2018. What did he do?
Again, I don't really know. I was super young. I just know that my parents in general were financially better off. I know that groceries were way less.
Coasting on an Obama era economy. That's kind of how economies work. They were coasting on Obama's economy. That's just like how economies work. When you come into office, you're typically the first 2 years of any president is dealing with the economy of the previous administration.
Okay, so. What was gas prices under Obama compared to Trump? Do you remember?
Yeah, Obama like lowered gas prices from what they were during the recession. Well, I won't say Obama lowered them. They just evened out when the recession ended.
Gotcha. Okay. So then did Trump not bring him down even more? Because I remember,
COVID
I vaguely remember.
In
What?
2016, gas was on average down to $1.88, and then 223 in 223 in like towards the end of December.
The end of Obama's presidency.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Trump
and
just
then so
maintained
did it
that.
go up, down, stay
No,
the same during
it
Trump
just maintained that until COVID hit. Then it went down.
until COVID hit? Okay, gotcha. Well, I again think that Kamala and Biden has done, yeah, Kamala and Biden has done a terrible job. I live in California now. I used to live in Missouri, but I genuinely am not saving money with how gas prices are now. And I know that under Trump's presidency, I had some family out here back in the day. Under Trump's presidency, I think it was like still $2, maybe $3 here in California, and it was far more manageable. And then like beef, even Kamala, whatever, says that it is up by 50%, and then that became like a Trump ad that it went up by 50%.
How come every Republican in office voted against the price gouging bill that Democrats proposed for gas? They voted against it. Democrats tried to lower gas prices.
Say that again, sorry.
Democrats tried to lower gas prices. Republicans all voted against it.
So whenever there's a bill proposed, isn't there also a lot of other things like hidden within the bill, but it's like just the name of the bill that gets like all the publicity? Like, why did all the Republicans vote against this bill versus why did all the Democrats vote against this? Am I wrong?
No, oftentimes bills can just have only the things specific to the bill. Happens all the time. So what it actually happens more often than not that bills tend to be single issue things.
Okay, all right. So was there anything in that particular bill that you think Republicans would have voted against, and in return it just kind of also turns down the price gouging bill?
The only things in this bill was the prevention of price gouging. There was nothing else. It was a prevention of price gouging, and then how they would enforce that prevention of price gouging, and what would be the penalties for breaking that price gouging.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, I think that's rather ridiculous. I think they're maybe just been trying to line their pockets with even more money. I'm not really sure. But I just know that Biden and Harris have not done a great job with the economy. Even if they say they have, I just don't see it.
In what way would you say that they have not handled the economy well? Like, in what way specifically?
I would say sending the money to Ukraine has drove everything up. We don't need to be paying for all the stuff that we need to be.
That's not how an economy works. Us sending money that we've already laid out in our budget for federal aid is not going to increase prices for the consumer. That's not how that works.
Okay, so what about Biden turning off the I don't know where it's at. It might be in like Alaska or whatever, but the main pipeline. I know there's some sort of main pipeline that we could be drilling in America.
So are you talking about the Keystone XL?
Overseas.
Are you talking about the Keystone XL pipeline?
Maybe. I'm not fully sure.
Okay, so a few things to know about energy. Right now, we produce more energy than we consume, and we export more energy than we import. We are energy efficient and have been for a while. We're currently drilling more than we ever have in U.S. history, even if I'm somewhat against this. We're currently doing all of these things. Well, what could Biden do more than what we are currently already doing?
I don't know everything, but I do know that Trump would say, drill, baby, drill.
We are
drive
drilling.
Prices down.
We are drilling. We're drilling more than we ever have in U.S. history. And we're consuming less than we are currently producing. So we produce more oil than we use oil.
Okay, so where do you think that goes wrong then? So if I'm wrong about Biden and him not doing enough to bring everything down, then where am I wrong? How come the economy is so bad right now? Because you can't tell me.
By what metric are you claiming the economy is bad?
Honestly, let's just say gas is way too high. Let's just say that.
Gas is not determined by us. Gas is determined by OPEC. OPEC largely decides how gas prices are going to be because OPEC is the biggest exporter of oil in the world. So if OPEC lowers the cost of oil per barrel, gas stations are going to use OPEC to get themselves their oil as opposed to buying from the US because it's cheaper to go through OPEC, right? Which means they can offer cheaper gas. When it comes to
Okay.
OPEC, the United States, the Democrats pushed through a bill to try to prevent OPEC from price gouging, and all the Republicans said no. So what more could Biden and Harris do?
All right,
Also,
that's a fair point. Yeah,
gas has
I don't
leveled
know.
out. Gas has leveled out. The average is like $3.20. Gas has leveled out, probably where we're going to see it be level for like a while. I don't see gas ever going below, like the average ever going below $3 again, because that's just how inflation works. When inflation goes up, right? When inflation rises through the inflation rate, we don't then see the prices then start to go down unless there is like a mass economic issue that happened, like COVID, where everyone stopped driving, so no one was buying gas, so gas prices had to go down because they needed to sell more.
Okay. All right. I see what you're saying for sure. All right. That's a great point. Yeah, I always just have kind of dealt. I recently moved out, and now I'm having to deal with all these prices and everything being under. And it's my fault for moving to California in general, but with everything in Biden and Harris, I just still see it falling on them in some way, shape, or form. There's got to be other things than just the Republicans turning down the price gouging bill or whatever.
Wait,
There's got to be other things they can be doing.
What could they do? What could Biden and Harris do to lower gas prices?
Well, you're smarter than me, to be fully honest. So what do you think they could have?
The answer is not.
What could they do better?
There's really nothing an administration can do to lower the price of gas when gas is like one of the most supply demand products in the world. Gas is supply demand like to an umpteenth degree. The more people that are on the roads driving, which is a signal of our economy doing better because more people are on the roads driving, the higher the gas prices are going to be. The less people on the roads driving, which is typically a signal. This is why we see gas prices fluctuate in northern states when it's wintertime. It is always cheaper to get gas in the winter because not as many people are driving.
Okay. So then you think the gas prices are falling under because the Republicans of whatever decided to
right now gas is just leveling out, and it's going to be when something has an inflation rate, like we talk about inflation rates a lot. What do you think like inflation rate means?
What do I think it means?
Yeah.
It just monitors how much, say, prices of gas has gone up or down, just its overall movement over time.
So not really. The inflation rate is the rate at which inflation will happen. So when we say inflation's at like 2.4, which it is right now, the inflation rate is at 2.4.
Okay.
It means that prices are always going to be slowly increasing by 2.4%. Right? That's just it's the rate at which inflation happens. So when we look at the way the US economy is set up, and I disagree with this in a few areas, but there's no changing it because it's so embedded currently. The Fed tries to regulate inflation at around 2 to 2.5%. Because if it drops too low, then that can negatively impact the economy and lead us to a recession. If it goes too high, it can negatively impact the economy and lead us to a recession.
Yeah.
So we try to keep inflation around 2 to 2.5%, which it is currently.
Okay, gotcha. So, and I've heard Trump say, I don't know if it's like necessarily a policy or not, but I've heard him say that he's going to bring gas down, like I think it was below $2 everywhere nationwide. How do you think he would make that happen? How do you think he would make that happen?
It's just a talking point. There is no path that Donald Trump can take to bring gas prices below $2 for the entire country. Places like New York and California will never have that cheap of gas because there are more cars on the road. This is again what we can see when you go from, and because I used to do this drive constantly, when you go from New York City and you start driving north, as you drive north, gas will get progressively cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until you start to hit Albany, where gas then will start to go up a little bit. And then when you pass Albany, it'll then get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper because gas is more expensive in areas with more people because there is a more demand for the gas. There is nothing
Okay,
Trump
so
can do to lower gas in like major metropolitan cities. There's nothing he can do to lower gas below $3 probably. Never gonna happen.
okay, so Harris, she said that she was raised from a middle class family and that she's going to do everything to bring prices down. How is she going to be able to bring, say, gas prices down? What do you think she
So
can do better?
I don't. She's not gonna be able to bring gas prices down. She has no control
So
over that.
that's just a talking point for her.
We can say maybe drill a little more, but we're drilling more than ever in U.S. history, and gas prices we've seen the level. So I think the gas has kind of leveled out where it's going to be during healthy economies now. What she can do is she can have some effect on like prices at like the grocery store and things like that, right? She can
Okay.
implement price caps and price gouging preventions, but the Republicans don't want to vote for any of that.
Gotcha. Okay, so I understand that she can really. So why is it that it's the bill? I'm looking here. Hold on. So what was that bill that you said was called that the Republicans all turned down?
Oh God, it was a OPEC price gouging bill. I don't remember the name of it.
Price gouging bill. All right, so I'm on my computer right now. This bill prohibits any person from selling during, and you said there was nothing else underneath that?
No, the bill was largely just. I don't think there was anything else in the bill, if I'm remembering correctly. It was just about preventing of the price gouging.
All right, sorry, this is probably going to be unentertaining for everybody watching, but I'm just making sure that there's nothing else underneath that bill, because to me, it doesn't make sense why any kind of Republican, or I guess Democrat, I don't know if they
Yes, it
voted against it
does.
as well.
It makes total sense why they wouldn't.
So why do you think they wouldn't?
Because Republicans don't actually care about middle and lower class Americans. They get money. They are backed by big oil. Why would they ever support price gouging? Big oil does not want that. Republicans don't want that.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but I also think that there's plenty of Democrats having the exact same issue. I remember Trump talking about how Hillary and all of her friends saying that they don't want any of those like tax breaks, whatever. Hillary was a big thing against the tax breaks.
I don't know, man. All the Democrats voted for the bill, so I don't. They voted for price gouging.
Okay.
So even if you want to say that, which I don't disagree that there are probably Democrats backed by big oil, right? It seems like even with the backing of big oil, they're still willing to put their vote towards limiting price gouging.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you got me there. But I guess sorry. Back to just one more thing, and then you can cut me off if you want to, like hang up. But why do you think Trump is such a big enemy of the people? Even if so, I personally think the 2020 election was stolen, and I do think that it should have been going under Trump.
But you do with no evidence. Just FYI.
And yeah, you're right. I thought that 2,000 Mules was a factual documentary. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet because you just told me that I am wrong. But why else do you think he's such a big enemy of the people? Why do you think he is such a bad thing for America? And what do you think Harris will do better?
Okay. So when I'm calling Trump an enemy of the people, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about one major thing, and that is that it seems like Donald Trump wants to do everything in his power to consolidate all of the power of the U.S. government into the executive branch. He does not care about checks and balances, which I think is incredibly dangerous in the way our system is set up. But further than that, I think Donald Trump has showed through character that he is not somebody that gives a shit about people. He does not care about people. I don't think somebody who's held civilly liable for SA cares about people. I don't think somebody who tries to overturn an election cares about people. I don't think somebody that mocks military members and mocks people with disabilities cares about people.
Okay, hold on.
I don't think this person doesn't care. So yeah, I think somebody who doesn't care about people is
probably
going to be an
right
enemy
there.
of people.
That's just false, because that was just taken out of
false?
context, and I looked into that.
What was taken out of context?
Full on false. The making fun of military or disabled veterans or whatever. That was taken out of context.
He called McCain a loser for being captured and being a POW.
Yeah, that was just taken out of context.
What's
I
the
watched
context of you are a loser for being a POW? What's the context that makes that okay?
That's just false. He didn't say that to this guy.
Yes, he did.
He didn't, man. I
Didn't say it.
disagree.
Wait.
I'll look it up.
I'll
if I
agree.
need
He
to.
didn't say it to his face, but he did say it.
He wouldn't say that about any person.
Yeah, he did.
I disagree. I'll look this up later if I have to, or I can do it right now if you
There's
allow
a
me.
video.
But
There's a video of it. There's a video of it. He said it on video, bro.
Where's it at?
Hold on, I'll pull it up. You might not be able to hear it, but I'll pull it up. It's at like, I don't know that you'll be able to hear this, but the chat will, and then the chat can verify for you. 5:10 mark. All right, let's pull the 5:10 mark.
Okay, I'm listening in right now.
Wonderful, great Americans, I will tell you. John McCain goes, oh boy, Trump makes my life difficult. He had 15,000 crazies show up, crazies. He called them all crazy. I said, they weren't crazy. They were great Americans. These people, if you would have seen these people, I know what crazy is. I know all about crazies. These weren't crazy. So he insulted me, and he insulted everybody in that room. And I said, somebody should run against John McCain, who has been, you know, in my opinion, not so hot. And I supported him. I supported him for president. I raised $1 million for him. It's a lot of money. I supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, you know, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that, because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero.
Okay, so he's not calling him a loser.
I like people that
because he was a prisoner of war.
Bro, he just said, and I quote, you started talking before he said it. He just said, and I quote, he's not a war hero. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured. This is complete disrespect to our military.
But he's not calling him a loser because he was a prisoner of war.
No, but he implied that.
He just said that he doesn't like him being captured, bro. Like, that's not him calling him a loser because he's a prisoner of war.
What do you mean? He called him a loser, and then when they said, but he's not a loser, he's a war hero, he said he's not a war hero, he was captured. That would be implying that loser falls into the war hero port. That's how a conversation would work. He could have said, you're right, he's not a loser, he's a war hero, but he didn't. Also,
okay,
by his own metric, Trump is also a loser then. If we're saying the metric of being a loser is that you don't win your election, well then Trump would also be a loser by this metric.
Okay, well, if you think he was calling him a loser, I'm going to agree to disagree. But back to what do you think Trump can do or can't do that Harris can?
I don't think Trump can do anything. I don't think Trump is able to work bipartisanly with anybody. There's a reason why the only major legislation he got passed in his time in office was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. He bipartisanly cannot work with people. People do not like him.
Okay.
He surrounds himself with yes men.
So what is your main reason? I'm assuming you're voting for Harris. Am I wrong, or are you voting for someone else?
I'm going to vote for Harris because she's not Donald Trump. My vote is completely and entirely against the man that has claimed that he wants to throw homeless people into prison camps, and against the man that has claimed that he wants to remove health care from a large majority of Americans, and against the man that vilifies asylum seekers and makes up stories that they're eating pets. I'm going to just 100% vote against this candidate.
Okay, so would you say Harris can do anything better?
I'd say she's shown that she can do stuff better. She had a history of being a prosecutor and attorney general. She was the vice president overseeing the Senate, where she cast the tie-breaking vote on like more Senate bills than any vice president in history. I think she's shown that she can at least do things. She's shown this, or at least this administration has shown that it can work bipartisanly. Every bill that's been passed by the Biden administration has been a bipartisan bill.
All right, so do you agree that Harris got her position like any other politician would, or do you think that she kind of slept around and slept with some people
How do you
to
sleep
get up to this
around?
point.
How do you sleep around when your position has to be
Sleep,
voted in? To be an attorney
sleeping
general,
around
you have to be
meaning
voted.
sleeping with other people. I mean, sleeping with other people.
I don't. First of all, if she did, good for her. In a fucking society where
Good for her.
in a society where men use their sexual positions of power to do the, yeah, good for fucking her, bro, for taking control of that.
How is
And
that good?
good
How
for
is
her.
sleeping with people a good
Who
thing
did
at
she
all?
sleep with? Who did she sleep with that led to her being elected into office in
We
California?
we don't
Who's the
know.
person?
I'm not very smart, but I do think that there is
Answer's
a deep
nobody.
state of some sort, and I think that she has just
No, the
gotten her
answer is
position of
nobody. The
power.
answer is the reason why you believe this is because she's a woman. You would not say this about any man.
No, I don't.
It's literally
No,
just
I
because she's a woman, bro. Like, let's just keep it $150. Who's the person she slept with that got her into her positions of power? She was
I don't
literally
know this,
voted
and you
into
don't know this.
office. She was voted,
I
but
don't
she would have had to sleep with a lot of fucking people.
exactly.
Like, how many people do you think voted for her in her California elections? When she was voted
Oh,
into
I have
like
no
her,
idea.
when she was voted into her Senate seat, how many votes do you think she got?
I have zero clue.
Okay, how many people are in California?
Like population-wise, I don't know.
Okay, let's just go through this. In her San Francisco district attorney primary election, right? She received 66,258 votes. 248 votes, sorry. She slept with 66,000 people?
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. But
What
I
about
don't think
when she had the runoff election in after that and she got 137,000 votes? Did she sleep with 137,000 people?
no, obviously not. That's just
Okay.
not how it is. But I
When
don't
she
think she
ran
got
for
her
attorney
position of
general,
power
hold on, I
in
want
a
to
fair
just go
way.
through. I want to go through all of these. When she ran for attorney general and she received 7,602 or 700,060 or 762,995 votes. Did she sleep with 762,000 people?
Obviously not.
Okay. When she ran for attorney general in 2010 after the primaries and she received 4,442,781 votes. Did she sleep with 4 million people?
Obviously not, man.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask again, and maybe we can come to some kind of conclusion here. How do you sleep your way to the top when you have to be voted in?
You know what? Yeah, you got me. I don't know, but I
Okay.
just think that she did not get her position of power in a legitimate way. Because
What's the
and you
illegitimate
say
way?
she's done all these things and she's gotten all of, or however many bills, whatever passed. But with that being said, I just don't think she got her position of power legitimately. And then this
What's the
whole deal where
illegitimacy?
how she's now the Democratic nominee.
What would be the
She,
illegitimacy? What would it be?
I don't know. I can't tell you that.
So then, wait, how can you make the claim? How can you say she got her? This is why I'm saying that it's just because she's a woman, because you're saying she got this power illegitimately. She won this power in fair and safe elections. And you keep going, yeah, but I just don't think it was legitimate. But you can't show any proof of it. You're just going, well, I think she slept her way. Like, come on, bro. There's nothing there but misogyny.
It's not misogyny for me to say that. I don't
Yes, it
think
is,
she's
actually.
a good person in general. I don't
What
see
does
how
her
she's
being
a good
person have to do with her winning elections? I don't think Donald Trump is a good person. He still won an election.
Okay, yeah. By good person, I mean of like morals. I don't think she has morals. I don't think she has gotten any sort of power in a legitimate way. And again, I don't have any basis off of that. You're right. I don't have
so
anything.
stop saying it, dog. If she won elections, then you need to stop saying she didn't get her power in legitimate ways, because you have nothing. You have no way to show this. You have no proof of this. There's no evidence that she slept her way anywhere to the top. The only reason that you're making this claim is because she's a woman. That's it.
No, bro, it's not just because she's a woman. If it was a male on the other end of this, I would say the exact same thing.
No, you wouldn't.
Why would I not?
Because we actually have evidence of men sleeping their way to, or men like using sex to like further their positions. What do you mean?
Okay. All right. You can. So she has furthered her position and I believe, and I don't think she got this whole Democratic nominee fairly. I think that was a whole coup that they sat
I'm sorry.
sat Biden
Wait.
down, him, Pelosi, and everybody.
Can you explain to me? Can you explain to me what the protocol is in the DNC when an incumbent candidate drops out of the race before the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, before the convention happens? What is the protocol when a incumbent drops out of the race?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so the answer is the delegates get to put their votes with whoever they want. And do you know who the delegates put their votes towards? Kamala Harris.
Okay.
So
do you think that she could have maybe slept with any of those kind of people
no.
to get her position of power, to get her nominee, or to get that nomination?
No. Do you know do you know how many delegates there are in the DNC?
Well, no, I don't, but I'm sure there's plenty.
Bro.
But
there's no way. So she would have had to sleep with.
Not gonna get every single
she would have
person,
had to
bro,
sleep with. She would have had to sleep with 4,567 people. Or I'm sorry, would have had to have been half to swing the vote. So she would have had to sleep with 2,000 plus people.
Yes, okay, I get that. But do you think she hasn't done that with anybody at all to get those
no,
particular
because there's no
votes?
evidence of this happening. No.
Yeah, there's no evidence, man. I understand that, but that's just what my personal opinion is.
It's not an opinion, it's a conspiracy theory. When you believe something, when you believe that there is a concerted effort to go against legal process with zero evidence to back it, that is quite literally the definition of a conspiracy theory.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. So, with that being said, you don't think Harris will do that many greater things. You dislike Trump as a whole.
I think Harris has plenty of policies that I fully support, such as $50,000 business tax credit for new small businesses. An amazing policy. It's going to boost small business. The going from $5,000 tax credit to $50,000. It's going to do fucking wonders for small. We're going to see small businesses pop up like crazy. I think expanding the child tax credit to $6,000 for newborns, $36,000 for 2-year-olds, and $3,000 for everybody else. Great policy. Upping it for a fucking litany of Americans. I think $25,000 tax credit on down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. Amazing policy when the housing market is as shit as it is, because because all these homes are being bought up by fucking Wall Street investors. I think these are all good policies that will further. I think her wanting to expand it so that people can expand sponsorships of immigration for families in work, I think is a good policy. I think her wanting to hire more judges to get through the asylum seeking process is good policies. I think she has policies where Donald Trump has thoughts and prayers and concepts.
Okay, so you don't think Donald Trump has any good policies of any sort? You don't believe in what he's going to do for America?
No, I think Donald Trump does not have any. I think Donald Trump, the only policy positions he has are fucking batshit insane, like wanting to throw homeless people into fucking camps. That's insane.
That's not a policy.
Yes, it is. He specifically has a policy.
How is that a policy?
He wants to get into it. Do you think people in the United States should be forced to take medical treatment that they don't want to?
No, not at all.
Great. What Donald Trump wants to do is he wants to ban urban camping in the whole country. He wants you to be illegal to urban camp, which means sleeping in cities, right? Sleeping outside at night in cities. He wants to ban this. He then wants to take anybody who is caught urban camping. He wants to take them and either put them in prison or force them into camps where they are forced to receive treatment for whatever. And if they do not take this treatment, they have to stay in these camps. They're not allowed to leave. This would be...
so where do I search that up?
It's on his website, donaldjtrump.com. Do you want me to read it directly?
Okay, I'll look into that
directly.
Later.
Wait, I'll make this so easy. I will read it to you directly off his website.
All right, go for it.
Great. Give me a second.
Yeah.
So, Donald Trump says the homeless have no right to turn every park and sidewalk into a place for them to squat and do drugs. Americans should not have to step over piles of needles and waste as they walk down a street in a beautiful city, or at least once beautiful city, because they've changed so much over the last 10 years. Our first consideration should be the rights and safety of the hardworking, law-abiding citizens who make our society function. So again, he's just throwing fucking homeless people under the bus. When I am back in the White House, we will use every tool, lever, and authority to get the homeless off our streets. We want to take care of them, but they have to be off our streets. There is nothing compassionate about letting these individuals live in filth and squalor rather than getting them the help they need. We need professionals to help them. For a small fraction of what we spend upon Ukraine, we could take care of every homeless veteran in America. Our veterans are being treated horribly.
Okay.
So crazy that we're going to put veterans in camps. So what he's opposing is, under my strategy, working with states, we will ban urban camping wherever possible. Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they are willing to be rehabilitated. Many of them don't want that, but we will give them the option. So if they don't take the option, they go to jail because they've been arrested. And then they are going to open up large parcels of inexpensive land. They're going to bring in doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists and create tent cities where the homeless can be relocated forcibly. Remember that. It's not of their own volition. It's forcibly relocated or go to jail, and their problems identified.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so these rehabilitation, whatever. So what consists of this rehabilitation, does it say?
No, he does not say.
What do you think it is?
I don't care what it is. People shouldn't be forced to receive treatment if they don't want to. I don't care what the rehabilitation is. You should not say, take this or go to jail. First of all, forced rehabilitation doesn't work. Everybody will fucking tell you that.
Yeah.
Second of all, what instead would benefit is, like, if your issue is with drug use, safe injection sites, not taking homeless people and creating tent cities and forcing them into these tent cities. That is not going to work.
Is California one of those safe injection site kind of states?
I don't know how many safe injection sites California has.
Okay, I don't know either, but if I'm not mistaken, Oregon is for sure. And I've been to Oregon, and Oregon is a filth, just absolutely filthy, and is littered with homeless people doing drugs. You see people just slumped over in the streets. And I don't see how taking drugs is a good...
That's because when Oregon put through their plan to decriminalize drugs, they did not effectively fund, and this was consorted because I don't remember who it was, but somebody who I was reading about this the other day. They specifically didn't want this to happen. So what they did is when the people of Oregon passed through this measure, they didn't fund rehabilitative services. They didn't fund safe injection sites properly. They didn't fund rehabilitative services properly. So all that can happen when you increase the supply but don't increase the services is you're going to falter. And we know that they faltered because when Oregon passed this measure, there was a 600% increase in people seeking out these services, but they couldn't access them.
Okay, so to me, I think taking any sort of drug is a terrible idea, and the drugs that they take is just not safe for them to consume at all. Why do you think it is a better idea?
I'm not going to tell a person what they can and can't do with their body. Drugs should be, at the very least, decriminalized, but probably legalized should be the actual step. So that way, when we're looking at the consumption, we know people are consuming safe stuff and they're not consuming anything more. So again, all of this, though, doesn't account for the fact that Donald Trump wants to put them in camps. He wants to create tent cities where these homeless people will be forced to go, or they will go to prison. This is the biggest limiter of freedom that I have ever seen. Homeless people are not committing a crime by being homeless, but he wants to make it a crime so he can get them away from, in his mind, who actually matters to him, which are like the wealthy people walking the streets. The poor people, I don't care. Move them where nobody can see them. That's what he wants to do. You've already agreed that forcing someone to receive treatment is wrong, but it seems like now you're saying, well, Trump's plan is good. The force of treatment is actually a good thing.
I've not agreed with that policy in particular. I didn't even know that was a policy, to be quite honest. But I don't think any person, human being, should be taking these drugs to the point where it makes them so lazy and it makes them homeless, and they say, oh, I can't get out of this slump. I can't get out of this slump that I'm in. I just think that taking drugs of any sort is a terrible idea, and I don't think that the legalization is the way to go about it. I think it should be criminalized, and then they should be thrown in jail for taking those drugs. I don't think that the camping out in the streets is necessarily a crime, but it is a gross idea.
When it comes to drug use in the homeless population, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, only about 26% of homeless people in the United States abuse drugs.
Okay, so that would be 26% of the homeless problem.
But he wants to criminalize everybody who's homeless, not just the drug users.
I agree with you that that is a bad idea and that they should not be thrown into jail for them camping out in the streets. But I know that taking drugs, that's 26% of homeless people that should just be in jail and should be trying to get their act together.
Why should someone be in jail for a victimless crime?
For a victimless crime, they're taking drugs. Those drugs are illegal.
Using drugs is a victimless crime.
That they are the ones taking it.
You cannot victimize yourself in a crime.
Okay, I just think that taking drugs in general should be nationwide.
Why?
That should be banned, because
Why?
I just know that you see these people dying all the time. We need all these kits for, I don't know what it's called, but you need like the kits to bring them back to life or whatever, placed around streets and in homes or whatever. But I think taking drugs, just drugs in general, weed, whatever that be, and Kamala's throwing people in jail for just weed.
Kamala Harris decreased the amount of people who were prosecuted for marijuana charges in California from the previous administration before her by like over 1,000. She also implemented policies to get people who were in prison for drug use, programs to get them back on track, and that's why we saw recidivism under her watch drop drastically. She also, with Biden, she and Biden re-implemented an Obama-era policy where federal courts do not prosecute people for marijuana charges, and released thousands of people in the federal court system who were in jail for simple marijuana use. So
but she's also thrown those same exact people in jail.
Yes, because it was illegal.
Use.
Because it was illegal. So there were some cases where she had to, because there were extenuating other factors putting on the drugs, putting on the crime. Right? It wasn't just weed charges. I think when it comes to like simple marijuana possession, it was like 6 people. And she has been consistently trying to make up for that since she's gotten into higher offices.
Okay, that's fair. All right, I understand where you're coming from.
Reversed the Obama era policy and sought federal judges or federal prosecutors to prosecute marijuana again. He reversed that policy.
All right, that's fair. So, with that being said, I think drugs in general are terrible for you, and that they make you lazy, and that they can only be a detriment to your health.
Wait,
especially over time.
Who cares? But again, why should we criminalize somebody for a victimless crime?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Seems like we're just into limiting people's freedoms.
Homeless people. Say it again.
Majority of homeless people aren't on drugs.
But yeah, say majority, but that's still 26%. If that's true, 26% of people.
What do you think comes first? What do you think comes first, the homelessness or the drug abuse?
The drug abuse.
Incorrect. In most cases, it's the homelessness. They start abusing drugs because of the trauma of being homeless. That's why most addiction.
I would say it's probably
most addiction is trauma based.
I would say, to me, it sounds like the reason why they even got into that position is probably because they were already spending too much money on their drugs.
No, the primary reason that people go homeless is because of loss of jobs, loss of labor, like loss of being able to work. That's the primary reason, not because they were doing drugs.
Those loss of jobs, do you think that they were just taken away from them majority of the time?
No,
do you think it was?
Look, here we are again with you just speculating on stuff. Why? Listen. I just want to be so for real here. If you're going to have a position on something, If you're going to say, I believe strongly in X, you should be researching X in your free time. You should know all of the issues and things that encompass X, because if not, you're having an uninformed opinion, right? You don't actually care about the drug use
That's fair.
because there are tons of rich people that use drugs all the time. They're not in prison. It's only about the
That's fair.
people who've lost their jobs that you can see. The people who are on the street, that's when we have an issue with drug use. It's a nothing burger of a position.
Yeah, that's fair. You make a good point. I should probably do that. I should probably educate myself a bit better on it. And again, you are clearly a smart individual who knows what they are talking about. But I would say the main reason why, and you had a caller on here earlier that was a big kind of Christian of some sort. I am a Christian myself, and I think that, and you don't have to believe in my religion. Does not matter. But I think Trump has a more God-focused, even if it's not Christianity, I think it is a more God-focused power, and he would be taking America on a more God-focused,
Donald Trump's policies directly go against the express word of Jesus Christ. All of his policies, almost all of his policies, go directly against.
I would say no. I would say no.
You want me to prove you wrong?
Mainly, and let's just bring up the position on abortion ban. Me and you will never agree on abortion, that's for sure. And I think that a fetus, and you're going to hit me with all of these things, I don't know anything about it, but I think that a fetus is still a human. And that if you decide that you don't want this human, that is killing of a baby.
Okay, well, a few things. One, God kills babies in the Bible all the time. There's specifically the verse about the bitter water that women take to expel babies from their womb. Second, when we look at what Jesus's words actually were, right? Because that's what it means to be Christian. It means to follow the words of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ specifically mentions a few things that are really important. These are the things that separate who will go into heaven and who will go into hell. This is specifically from Matthew 25. It's the sheep and the goats. He says, and I quote, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. For I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me.' Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison to go visit you?' The king will reply," remember the king is Jesus, "the king will reply, yep. 'Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine,'" the brothers and sisters of his are all the people, all of his flock, "you did for me." So whatever we do for the least of us, we do for Jesus. So the specific things he says, I was hungry and you fed me. The Republican Party and Donald Trump consistently want to defund SNAP benefits. They want to defund welfare benefits. They don't want to feed hungry people. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. We won't talk about how the Republicans held up Flint, Michigan and their clean drinking water. We won't even get into that. I was a stranger and you invited me in. Specifically, the Remain in Mexico policy, completely antithetical to this. We actually told them, do not come in, which is the complete opposite of what Jesus said. I was sick and you looked after me. He wants to repeal Obamacare. He doesn't have a policy to put in place to it. He wants to make it so that insurance companies, again, can deny you coverage because you have a pre-existing condition. I was in prison. You came to visit me. He don't give a shit about prisoners. He never has. So I would argue that Donald Trump goes against the core things that Jesus tells you to do in order to get into heaven. He goes against all of these. His policies go against all of these.
All right. Yeah, you bring up some good points. I don't have any points of my own that I think I can bring up, but I'm sure there are plenty of other things. And I would say that the liberal left-hand side is more anti-Jesus And I think that and I don't know this, but I believe that Harris or even Biden has probably done things that has gone against my religion.
Such
and
as?
one being just like the gay marriage. I don't believe that they should be able to marry each other. That's just
crazy.
one.
Yeah, Jesus doesn't care about that. It's not in any of Jesus's teachings. Jesus never said anything about men marrying men.
Jesus says that marriage should be between a man and a woman.
Jesus doesn't say that, actually. Jesus has never once said that. There is no quote in the Bible of Jesus directly saying this anywhere.
All right. Well, I will look it up later. But I would say that God wants as many of his children as possible. God's creation is us as human beings. And the only way to procreate is between a man and a woman.
If God wanted as many people as possible, why did he do a flood to kill a bunch of them? But anyway, that's all the time that we have for today. You have a good rest of your day.
All right.
Stay.
Hey, real quick, can I pray for you? Is that okay or no?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate you letting me talk for as long as I did, man.
All right. Everybody say W, Saoirse. Say W.